I did just transition that to live, so we'll see it in the college.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Okay, we will begin this evening with our revenue neutral hearing first. So, call that meeting to order. So I need to approve the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second?
Motion from Brian, a second from Dan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. I would just note that Jeff will be gone tonight for some family things, obligations, and Brooke will be calling in a little bit. Okay, so we'll move to the 2.1, the revenue neutral rate hearing. The Senate passed Bill 13 in 2021 that required us to do this. We did that last year. It was published in the newspaper, and you see the affidavit there that shows that it was published. Anything else on that, Dr. Dixon?
Just the first official time that it's gone out, but by mail, so this was kind of, we did do a revenue neutral hearing last year, and people did not receive those for municipalities last year. This year they would, but it's the second year doing revenue neutral. In our case, just as a reminder, specifically for the revenue neutral, the general fund is always set. That's a statutory requirement, 20 mils. In McPherson, an election was held, and that was determined to go up to the 33%, so our LOB, we leveraged that full amount. And the same is true, the cap for capital outlay is 8 mils, and McPherson has always levied the 8 mils. So in this case, really the revenue neutral for your sake is always going to be something that you're going to encounter, as is the vast majority of the districts in the state of Kansas. That's really all I'd have for that information.
All right, we'll move to 3.1 then. We need to approve the resolution 2022-9, which is the resolution on exceeding the revenue neutral tax rate per statute. So
It is worth noting, sorry, I failed to share one thing as I pulled this up. The one thing that also changed this year with the law change and now requires on the revenue neutral rate for all municipalities, but including school districts, a roll call. So you were probably getting ready to say that, my apologies.
Yeah, thank you for the
Sorry.
reminder. Okay, so if there are no questions for that piece of it, I need a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll move to approve the resolution. Do I need to read it, or just to be it resolved, or the whole thing?
No, just the motion to approve resolution 2022.
Oh, I make a motion to approve,
Read
the whole motion.
resolution.
read the whole resolution, right?
You do not have to read the full resolution, just the motion to approve resolution 2022-9, and then resolution on exceeding. You're fine to make that motion.
All right, I move to
It's in,
approve resolution 2022-9, resolution on exceeding the revenue neutral tax rate.
Perfect.
I have a motion from Brian and a second from Laura, so now I will do the roll call. Okay, Emily,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
And yes. And then we'll note that Jeff and Brooke are absent. Okay. That, and we had no public comment or input for this piece of it, so that concludes the revenue neutral hearing. Now we have a little break.
Thank transition to this over time. show time, and we're live. Yep, we're live.
Okay, we will call the budget hearing to order. And a approval of the agenda. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion from Emily, a second from Dan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Okay, this is our budget hearing, and we have no one signed up to comment from the public, so Dr. Vincent, do you have anything under 2.1?
I want to highlight just really two things. And I've talked with several of you about it, but the full document is there, and appreciate your. First off, let me actually first off name one thing. Our business manager is here. Nikki Garcia has done a tremendous job of transitioning into the role, and she's doing well, but her voice will make your throat hurt. I'm just saying that. So she did an excellent job. We obviously each year, just to kind of highlight the process, the KSDE releases the budget software in June, July. As we close out the books, we started initiating the budget process for this year. Nikki jumped into that, did an excellent job. We had the budget reviewed with KSDE. Ultimately, thank you as the board for your involvement in the August meeting as we reviewed the needs assessment, which has also been updated and included in the board packet. That is, again, just as a reminder, that's been a new component. Again, the law changed House Bill 2560 this last spring, and so just also want to use that as an opportunity then to give a shout out to our building principals and district level administrators for that law was passed and the details came out in May, and we worked to make sure that we had found a way to compile all of that so that we could really utilize and use that voice that was brought to the budgeting process. Again, your review of that this past August was an important part of that, and will continue to be an important part of it moving forward. So just to highlight for your sake as a reminder, before I highlight one item in the budget document, you as a board identified really 5 key areas, and the discussion as we looked at the needs assessment in August was important. So really highlighting as we plan from a budget perspective, as we consider allocation of resources, really 5 areas. Increased staff compensation. Thank you to you for your work in this past negotiations effort. We've been able, versus now able to say that we broke that $40,000 threshold. So appreciate your support in that area. And again, that's reflected in the budgeting process. And then aligning curriculum and adoption of new resources, increasing our staff development opportunities, improving our facilities and technology. That was a big discussion, and certainly is a big discussion even for tomorrow night as you continue the bond effort. And then lastly, just interventions in MTSS. So one of the questions that that was posed to me just in the last week was oriented around, we see that our student population that's low SES is increasing. What are some of the ways that the budget and allocation of resources helps to respond to that? Well, it's not all captured right in by verbatim in the document, but you're obviously aware, and every one of those items will directly impact all of our students, but certainly help students on free and reduced lunches. Also within the budget is our title resources, and we have specifically set aside resources for homeless and migrant students, ELL population, and then ultimately we help to support students who are on free and reduced by waiving some of the fees and student charges that they would otherwise receive. So all of that is what happens in the process of making sure that we're operating schools, but they're not always immediately captured when you first look at this. Where I think it's the best captured, and I would just draw your attention to the budget, specifically within the budget, is the budget at a glance portion of the document, and that's where you really see, and I want to draw the board's attention to that. when you really see that, in the 75% of our budget is getting directly allocated to instruction, student support services, and instructional support services. So that your work on the needs assessment was reflected in the needs assessment, and ultimately what is reflected in our budget, I believe highlights that we as a district are directing and allocating resources where we've talked about, which is those 5 areas. And just appreciate your support as the board as we continue those efforts. And in fact, we'll even hear an update and be seeking approval later to extend our work in curriculum instruction through another study around our current practices and curriculum. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but those are the key items that I'd like to draw to your attention this evening.
Any specific questions about the budget documents?
I just want a point of clarification on that, what you just had up there, Shiloh, where it says percent change at the bottom on percentage of expenditures for instruction. That percent change is not a percent change of dollar amount, it's percent change of the percent of the total budget, right? That's why it says -2 and -3% over there. Because our total expenditures actually went up for instruction between 21, 22, 22, 23.
Yes, that'd be true. Yes,
So is that
those bottoms.
So is that supposed to be that way, or is that a?
What I would tell you is, if you look actually, so that's a good question, where you can actually see how our breakdown really of those top 3, those are the ones that are often the most synonymous, or those will have similar. Those top 3 in actual expenditures last year, with the previous 2 years at 63%, 9%, and 3%, actually equaled the same 75%. But as we budgeted for this year, just in the manner that we shifted some of where we would direct resources, you see a little bit less in instruction, but you see that made up in student support services with an additional % there. And the same is true for instructional support services. So the overall 75% remains the same in those kind of key areas where teaching and learning. Likely, without digging, certainly can dig into it, it's likely associated with our professional development and how that's being coded and getting spread across, pulled into this final budgeted glance through the document.
And Nikki is nodding her head in agreement, so I think that's right.
Would you say that's accurate? We all want to just hear your voice. Yes.
I guess.
So there's a little bit of a shift. Now, the other point to it is, at the end of the year, you'll see the actuals. So that could be still 63%.
No, I guess I hear what you're saying. I just want to make sure that that number where we're talking about percentage change on the far right column, the bottom 2 numbers there, where it says it's a negative percentage change, that's not in total dollars spent. That's a negative percentage change of the total amount, because we're going from 27 million to 30 million. So that's a positive change in the amount we're expending on instruction, but it looks like it says
That is
negative
correct.
2%.
How you are stating that is exactly correct.
Okay.
We are allocating more resources, but for the percent of the overall budget does look a little bit different by 2%.
Okay.
Yes. Good question.
Any other questions? Okay, and we'll move to 3.1. We need a motion to approve the budget as presented.
I move we approve the published 2022-2023 USD 418 budget as presented.
Second.
Motion from Dana, a second from Emily. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 6-0. Okay, that concludes the budget hearing for this year. So in a few minutes, we'll move to our regular agenda.
Thank you. Hey, bro, I'm gonna go adjust some technology around, so you can hang on, or if you want, you can call me back. It's up to you. We have about 5 or 6 minutes. Thanks.
I'll come back, click.
Yeah.